All right, so you're gonna start looking through your anatomy so we can see any issues on they're gonna affect your movement. So trunk rotation is not too bad. Hip abduction is not too bad. I mean, going through this, your mobility's average, slightly above average, like your ankle mobility's above average. Hip internal, external, internal's a little tight on your right, but pretty much average. Hip flexion above average. Your hip extension is probably the tightest thing. So if you do get in a full stride, you're gonna have a hard time fully opening your hips. I do see weakness in your upper body. Like your total body strength for your age isn't bad, but it's less in your upper body. So your upper body needs to get stronger.
Okay.
The as far as speed, your rotational speeds were average. Your verts were below average. So definitely need more speed. This broad jump wasn't too bad, but then your laterals were poor, which usually can link to hip abduction, but could be just you don't have a lot of strength in that lateral movement.
Yeah.
So definitely a lot more lifting. Like, especially at your age, you really are behind in your physical explosiveness and upper body strength that we really need to build in the weight room.
Okay.
But I'm not concerned about the mobility as much. So let's see, we're gonna do the 2 pitches, sub and over the top. This is your sub here. So your sub's got a real drop in spin axis, which that actually is, I would try to get, so what's happened is, give me the ball. When you're getting down here, you're dropping your hand.
Okay.
You wanna keep that more here because that'll give you more horizontal run, meaning if you drop your hand too much, the ball's just it's gonna add to gravity. If you hold it here, you're gonna get a lot more run like that.
Okay.
Because you're not in that horizontal slot. There's really not that much horizontal run. That's not much at all. You're over the top. Here, I mean, you have really good vertical lift over the top. Your velo differences were actually kind of close. I mean, I'm sure you could throw a little bit harder over the top, but you have better spin actually over the top than in the sub slot. So if I was you, I would definitely work on both. Because you might find out as your upper body your body gets stronger and you get more powerful that you start, as your velo gets up, this starts looking really good, Because I see more positives in your spin over top than I do from the sub slot.
Okay.
Let's look at biomechanically. So this one is over the top. Okay, so you could see coming out of leg lift, you're not moving forward enough. You're kind of just sitting.
Yeah.
You're letting your lift leg kind of lead the way. And the problem is the lift leg now gets way out ahead and then it pulls you off the rubber. This is the only leg on the ground. That's your propulsion. So that's like if I grab the whip, that's my arm on the whip to move the whip. So if you let the lift leg get out like that, it's just gonna collapse everything down and then you're not gonna have a lot of propulsion into your landing. So you can see you hit here and your foot's still sideways. So your hips are gonna be still closed. And then when we look at it landing, the acceleration of your pelvis rotation, it's lower than your torso rotation. You don't have a lot of acceleration at this point. Mm-hmm. And everything's kind of synced up. Your pelvis should be accelerating into this landing. From here, and you don't even pull your glove that hard, but you can see when your arm gets up, there's not much layback. Mm-hmm. So you're throwing that as hard as your sub slot and your arm's barely laying back. It's just almost like you're just pushing the ball. So the point is when you start propelling, separating, and all that energy starts shooting through your body, I think your over the top stuff's gonna look really good. Your front leg is staying flexed. I mean, it's stabilizing and then extending. But if as much as you see you don't have much layback, if you look at forward trunk posture at landing, which is all important to velocity, you're at 11 degrees and elite guy would be 45. So the point is you have so much more you can do to put velocity in the ball. Like you're gonna get better at propelling forces through your back leg, powering hip rotation. Your trunk does a good job of staying back. That should throw more energy up, should throw more energy through your trunk, You'll get more layback on your arm. That'll give your trunk more time to go forward, and you'll get more velo. I could see you making a big jump in velocity in your over-the-top slot just by applying these things really well. So those are all just core principles that we cover that you're not really using. And those are going to be big changes in your velocity. If we look at, and this thing likes Submarine. It actually picked it up perfectly. So let's see, coming into your sub slot, you can see kind of, so you're dropping your slot really early. So there's two ways you can get to your slot. You can land and go to your slot, or you can start at your slot and throw in your slot. I'll tell you right now, when you start with your trunk like that, you're killing velocity. Because velocity is, it's like the whip, right? It's like if I throw the end of the whip back and I throw the handle forward really well, that creates a lot of energy at the end. This is kind of like, when you do this, you're not really throwing the end of the whip back. You're kind of keeping it right here, and then you're doing this, right? So the point is like when I go here, I can't really stay back. Everything just wants to go early. But if I hold this and I hold back, now all this gravity's pulling me back, and it's gonna hold the end of my whip back before I go, okay? So, you know, I'm a big believer in you should keep your trunk posture up and then adjust after landing. Okay. So, same thing, like you're falling in the landing, your back leg's not doing anything. And that's the other thing, if I'm here too early, it's gonna be so much harder to drive my hip rotation than if I'm up here, I can drive my hip rotation and then go down to that position, right? So you're also killing your hip rotation in that position. Okay. So now you got everything coming together, right? And now your trunk is even stopped here. Now you're having to push your elbow ahead to release. That's hard on your elbow. This point right here, right there, that's super hard on your elbow. So point is if you start here, now everything is gonna wanna go early, which means you're gonna lose power. And then when you land, it's gonna suffocate your hip from coming around. Now your trunk's not gonna have a lot of energy. Now your arm's gonna be pushing, and then that's too hard on your arm, okay? So we've gotta work on the same principles that we're doing with the over the top. Keeping the trunk up, loading, driving, separating, and then we can drop to those slots. Once we get the energy in the system, now it's push the arm slot where we want it with all that energy, as opposed to killing all that and just trying to then use your arm to accelerate, right? So I think that's it. I think, to be honest, I see this is going to be not as good for your arm right now. I see a lot more positives in your over the top, and you definitely need to start taking some of the over top positives into your Submarine if you want to see that get better. Okay.